And we are moving to, everybody's back? Okay. We're going to move into postponement order of the day. Do we have any postponement order of the day?
No, Mayor Wei.
Okay. If not, we are going to oral communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter within the jurisdiction of the council, but not on the agenda for discussion, including information items. Madam City Clerk, do we have any cards?
Yes, Mayor, I have 3 speaker cards for people requesting to speak in Community Hall, and I see 2 hands raised on Zoom.
All right, please proceed. Thank you.
Okay, so actually, Mooney Potty Potlas submitted a speaker card, but he's now on Zoom, so I'll go ahead and call on him. Welcome, Mooney.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Wei, Vice Mayor Mohan, and the City Council. I'm Mooney Madhipatla, a longtime resident of Cupertino. I'm here representing myself. I wanted the City Clerk to play a 1-minute clip from District Attorney Mr. Jeff Rosen on SB 403. I understand the City Attorney has copyright concerns. Please note that, Palo Alto residents were able to play the same clip during their council meeting. Since the clip couldn't be played, let me read Jeff Rosen's comments from the clip. As District Attorney, I'm focused on whether there is discrimination or hate crime or violence based on discrimination in my county. While there have been crimes committed in our county, I'm not aware of anything related to caste and hate crimes or criminal violations. And so I just wonder if the bill is necessary. I'm also very concerned about anyone being stigmatized or any community being assumed to be racist because they look certain way or come from certain place. And so one of the concerns I certainly would have about this bill that talks about caste discrimination is it strikes me as discriminating against Indian Americans and making them suspect in some way that others are not. So that last statement is very important, right? So it paints Indian Americans as suspect and discriminatory unfairly, right? And by the way, we also, that's end of Jeff Rosen's statement. Coming back to my comments, we also met with Assembly Member Evan Lowe. Thanks to Council Member Liang Chow for helping us to secure this meeting with Mr. Lowe. After meeting with us, Evan Lowe made recommendations to the bill author to remove the language that unfairly discriminates against Indian Americans. I would like our city to submit a letter opposing SB 403 ASAP. I see in the staff report that the manager is suggesting this to be taken up in December. Since this law is fast tracking through legislation to pass before summer recess, I don't see the point of delaying this. As an elected representative representing us, please submit a position letter opposing unfair and discriminatory SB 403 as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mooney. And now we will return to the 2 remaining speaker cards for people in Community Hall. We have Toby Levitt, followed by Rhoda Fry. Welcome, Toby.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Toby Levitt. I work with the San Francisco Shakespeare Festival. I'm here to thank you for adding Free Shakespeare in the Park back to the city's 2023-24 budget. And I'm so sorry I wasn't here last meeting. We've already begun fundraising for Free Shakespeare in the Park in Cupertino and are pleased to let you know that the Cupertino Library Foundation is the first to pledge their financial support. If you have any leads that you would like me to follow up on or introductions you would like to make on behalf of Free Shakespeare in Cupertino, I would be most grateful. We've got a really strong case to raise funds for this beloved program. Remember that we leverage local funding by securing philanthropic funding from regional funders such as the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation and national funding from the National Endowment for the Arts. With your, their, and other support, the show will go on. We're hard at work preparing this summer's production of Shakespeare's Cymbeline. The set is almost built and ready for painting. The costumes are being stitched and rehearsal with the actors begin next week. Performances in Memorial Park begin in just 1 month on July 22nd, and I hope to see you there. Expect big performances, music, delicious villains, and ultimately a family-friendly coming-of-age story. Cymbeline features a dazzling mix of comedy, tragedy, and a fairy tale that concludes with inventive scenes of revelation and joyous reconciliation. In this tale, a series of unimaginable misadventures ensue that test the strength of the characters' commitment to each other. They say Shakespeare's plays are timeless, and I'm sure we can all relate to encountering misadventures that test the strength of our commitment to each other. We've been performing Free Shakespeare in the Park in Cupertino's beautiful Memorial Park since 1995. The city's budget was smaller then. Apple had just released the Power Macintosh 9500, code-named Tsunami. A lot has happened since then. Against a backdrop of theater companies still struggling and even closing due to ongoing pandemic impacts, we're hoping that our decades-long relationship with the city of Cupertino and the popularity of the program with local families allows us to find a path forward to again put the program on a sustainable footing. Thank you for the honor of the 27 years of collaboration. Let's keep collaborating together and make this happen.
Thank you, Toby. Next we have Rhoda Fry, followed by Luis Sadati. Welcome, Rhoda.
Good evening, council members. I'm really concerned about how the city is spending our precious tax dollars and where we're putting our values. I recently received a survey on changing the city's website. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're in a severe budget crunch. Even if we can get out of CDTFA reduction, which I doubt, there are other major pressures on the budget. For instance, consider that the county is making severe budget cuts, but Cupertino is making microscopic token concessions. Please stop spending money on this website. The council and the public should also know that we wasted over $40,000 each on a frivolous lawsuit from the League of Women Voters and a consultant to investigate council members. And I would ask, why was this consultant hired prior to council approval? Furthermore, with respect to values and accountability, I'm disappointed that certain council members and staff did not recognize the legitimate issues raised by council members Chow and Moore pertaining to multiple conflicts of interest with the Chamber of Commerce. We need to be aware of these. These conflicts are real and must be considered if you are to truly represent the residents. Please take time to listen to their testimony. Please stop wasting our money, residents' time, staff time, and resources. I beg you to focus on what most matters to residents. To that point, I'm grateful that Shakespeare in the Park has been restored for this season. It was my pleasure to work with Toby and brainstorm with her on how to retain our community program that is going on for 30 years. And hopefully another 30. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhoda. Next we have Luis Sadati. Welcome, Luis.
Jack. Testing my voice. Okay. I want to thank the City Council for how well run the meetings have been in the last few months. It's really, previously, in previous years, I would lead the DOLA community in coming to council, and oh my goodness, the meetings ran over until like at 11:30, even though the DOLAs were on the agenda. We never had a chance to speak up. And then people came out of the meeting saying, is this how our city council runs? You know, and it was like, people did not get a good impression of the way the council was running. So I've really seen a streamlining, a prompt addressing of issues, and especially from 3 of the council members, Sheila Mohan, Hung Wei, and J.R. Fruin, you're very short and to the point. Just a few excellent sentences, and you make your point. So that is wonderful. I think following the grand jury and independent investigator findings, the current city council has implemented some good changes that reduced endless talking, like 10 to 15 minutes to make a motion from two council members talking between themselves, and reduced filibustering. Because basically, as our Senate has shown, you can stop progress from occurring. You can stop items from even reaching a discussion by filibustering, endless talking. So I really appreciate how this council has allowed people to have 10 minutes to sign up to speak. So I think that allows wonderful input from the residents. And I really liked how the council majority voted for having all the emails and the findings of the independent investigator and the grand jury be made public and transparent. And you had a lot of pushback about that, but I applaud you for having the courage to vote to make those things transparent and open to the public, because that's what transparency is about. You can say you're transparent, but whether you act in a transparent manner, that is the true test. So, and also I want to say there's been some negative talking, especially the last speaker, about the Chamber of Commerce. And the Chamber of Commerce has been a wonderful part of Cupertino, even before Cupertino was incorporated. And they helped way back in the day to incorporate
Louise.
Cupertino.
That is your time.
Thank you.
And we will now move to Zoom for our speakers participating by teleconference. We have San R, followed by Jaresh, Toby, followed by Lisa Warren. Welcome, San.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor Wee. I wrote into you on this topic as well, and I have shared with the previous Economic Development Manager, Tina Kapoor, information from subject matter experts in the retail asset class. The information that I've shared with you in writing is that it is possible for the city to influence the selection of retail tenants that move into vacated retail shopping centers and strip malls in Cupertino. As you're aware, Sprouts has been vacated, and a number of retail tenants have vacated in that stretch on Stevens Creek. I request you to please work with the corporate leasing offices of corporate tenants that we would like to attract to the city of Cupertino. In particular, I'd like to draw to your attention a few retail tenants that would make Cupertino a more enjoyable place. Over the weekend, I was actually able to witness Legoland, which is now in the in the Great Mall. And Legoland, as we all know, for kids, has been a destination to travel to in Carlsbad. No longer do you need to do that. You can actually enjoy Legoland right here in Great Mall. And seeing how popular that was, there's opportunities to bring more such destinations into vacant retail space, such as Sprouts. So I encourage the City Council to work with corporate leasing offices of potential tenants to attract the kinds of retail tenants that will make Cupertino enjoyable. Along the same lines, I also want to ask that you consider why we do not have any food trucks in Cupertino. Residents are facing high inflation. The cost of our restaurants often drives them away to another city to eat at food trucks. And I'd love to see you consider what is preventing us from allowing food trucks to park in open parking centers that are available in all these vacant shopping malls that we have. You can just drive a couple of miles out to the city of San Jose or the city of Santa Clara or the city of Sunnyvale and enjoy a vibrant food truck scene. And instead, we have conversations in City Council about preventing restaurants in Main Street. And I'm confused. I don't know if the council members actually visit and spend time and enjoy with other residents some of these shopping centers. Main Street retail is basically taking away space from potential shops that would allow for the public to enjoy the space, such as coffee shops or boba shops or restaurants or dessert shops. Instead,
Thank
we're
you,
talking
Sam.
about
That is your
forcibly
time.
requiring retail.
Next, we have Jaresh Toby, followed by Lisa Warren, followed by Colin User 1. Welcome, Jaresh.
Hello,
Hello.
respected Mayor and City Council members. My name is Girish Tobi. I've been a resident of Cupertino last 20 years. I request you to oppose the bill SB 403 and pass a resolution no to the SB 403 with the following reasons that, first of all, it is unconstitutional, it's divisive among the community, it's profiling of the Indian Americans, it's biased and bullying our kids who are going to schools and the colleges. It's creating the hate among the communities. It is based on the falsely fabricated data. For example, if you see the recent case which has been dismissed for the Cisco by the court itself. So the bill is included that is part of that. It is based on the irrelevant survey they have used to propose the bill. When cities like Yuba City are passing the resolution and writing the letters to assembly members opposing the SB 403, why not Cupertino City can't act it and look into that? First of all, sending the email followed by the letters rather than waiting till end of the year. So I request and urge the mayor and the city council member, please look into that and expedite the communication, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaresh. Now we have Lisa Warren, followed by Colin User 1 and Gabriel Moran. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. I'm grateful for Rhoda's comments as usual. Sometimes I don't agree with her, most of the time I do, but I know that she always takes great time and thought and has good background when she speaks. I wasn't going to say anything about this, but it came up, so here I am. From my perspective, let's call it collaboration. True collaboration needs sharing of thoughts, and that takes time. So if we're going to have a council that collaborates and considers each other's ideas, sometimes a meeting might go a little long. In fact, I don't know that there's been more than maybe one meeting since January that didn't have to ask for extended time once more than once in some cases, once the subject started being talked about, even though there was a policy to end at a certain time. And there's a cushion for adding time because sometimes it's needed, often it's needed, and that's been shown to be the case. Rushing through ideas and not allowing good cooperation is not helpful for anyone. I also, there were comments at the beginning that each of the council members, which is great, had discussions with staff ahead of time, in particular about Memorial Park, and that's great. But as a member of the public, I wish I could hear some of those questions and answered so that I could form my questions and answers better when giving input. Otherwise, I feel maybe we're cheated out of being inputting things. So it's a give or take. It's good in one way and not in another. You can't be a cookie cutter. This is how much time we have. This is what we're going to do. And in fact, the last meeting, there was an item that was pulled to be discussed. And tonight, instead of being a discussion item, it's on consent. There's something very wrong with that. It was meant to be discussed. Time ran out. It was decided to carry it over to be discussed. And yet it's a consent item. So where is the logic in that? Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Lisa. Next, we have Colin User 1, followed by Gabriel Moran. Welcome, Colin User 1.
Hello, dear council and residents and guests. We are the long-term residents, and I think some people probably hear the traffic we got. Actually, it's pretty small compared to a lot of things the city handle or some other whatever litigation you guys would develop or not. Thing is, we kept being biased, discriminated, and retaliated. So we just want the people actually understand our culture, language, and have a fair view, and like ombudsman or somebody can speak our language, talk to us, so we can get this move on. We usually ask very little things of property planning, but we ask less than that, and so I know some people follow. Before I heard that, and we usually just want to protect the residents as far as our parents got first was long-term residents. We just want to protect all the other future residents, whatever the older residents, it doesn't happen to them. So please get us some fair people we can talk to, and not the ones actually keeping retaliate and benching us, and again, charge again, retaliate again. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Gabriel Moran. Welcome, Gabriel.
Good evening. My name is Gabriel Moran, and I am proud to serve as Government Affairs and Policy Associate for Toronto Wireless, a next-generation fixed wireless access company founded right here in the Bay Area with nearly 300 local employees. Last year, pardon the noise. Last year,
Getting a little bit of feedback. If you have something on in the background, you could mute it, perhaps.
Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Last we raised over $250,000 for Valley Medical at our.
I'm sorry, it's still garbled. Also, perhaps we're getting feedback from external noises surrounding you. Okay, looks like we lost the speaker. So, Mayor, I will return that back to you now.
Okay, I will close the oral communications. So let's move to consent calendar. We have items 2 to 9. Do we have any consent calendar that's being pulled?
Yes, Mayor Wei. Councilmember Chow pulled item 7, 8, and 9.
Okay, so items 7, 8, 9 have been pulled. Any more on the dais that's council members would like to pull any items? If not, we are moving items 7, 8, 9 after the public hearing. And we will, I would like to have a motion to approve items number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, please.
So moved.
May I have a second?
A second.
As moved by Councilmember Froon, second by Vice Mayor Mohan, and
Mayor.
yes.
Point of order. Before you
public
vote on the
comments,
motion,
yes.
could you?
I am sorry. I always forget about
comments?
this.
Thank you.
I'm open up public comment for consent calendar 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you want to have comment on 7, 8, or 9, we have a specific time for the comments when we pull them out. So any public comments for consent calendar 2 to 6?
Mayor, I see one hand on Zoom from San R.
Okay.
Welcome, Sam.
Already?
Yes, hello again, City Council and Mayor V. I'd like to talk about item number 2, which is giving the city and county some added control over the Lehigh Quarry. As we know, the Lehigh Quarry has been late in some of the recovery and restoration of the ridge line that has eroded due to some of the quarrying activities. And I'm highly concerned by the potential that they will get a chance to sell parcels of land and try and exit all but the quarry area, thereby reducing their skin in the game and reducing any chance that they will actually perform the reclamation of the ridgeline as is required of them. I urge you to please amend item 2 to be as stringent as you can on Lehigh Quarry to ensure that they have no ability to profit off of any transactions on any parcels of the property until they're back in conformance with the reclamation and repair of the ridge line, as well as some of the soil contamination that has happened in that area. I'm extremely concerned that as they get to sell off the profitable parts of their property, that the quarry itself is going to end up in a situation where they can transfer it and have no incentive to do any kind of reclamation. So I request you to please consider ensuring that they do not have the ability to transact on any part of that property until reclamation has completed. Thank you.
Thank you, San. And we will now go back to Jennifer Griffin in Community Hall. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, anything to do with the Lehigh Quarry needs to be nailed down, locked down, written down. The quarry has been there the entire time I was a child. My grandmother was fond of saying that when she worked at a bank in downtown San Jose, she was there at the time that the original owner came in to take out the loan to purchase the property. And I believe it now since she was a native of downtown San Jose area. But I'm really concerned about what will happen to this property. We don't want it to be cut up. The original owner purchased it from a larger land holding, which was probably one of the ranchos in the area back in the 1800s, I believe. And we have the old Victorian house over there who was one of the owners, et cetera. The daughter married into it. I really do not want this land cut up. We were fortunate enough to have one of the Apple founders transfer the Rana Ranch in Carmel Valley to a conservancy group. If we have to do that with this quarry, we may need to go that route. Midpen may be the best place for it. I don't think we should be sacrificing this property to put housing on it. It is in a high fire burn area. There are inadequate roads going into that property. We've had fires back up there, and I'm really getting tired. I'm sorry, of everyone is trying very hard, but I really am getting tired of people taking advantage of this property and playing games with it. It is no place for high-density housing, believe me. You can't even get fire insurance. State Farm, et cetera, have pulled out of the state. It's for political issues, well, that's fine. But let's don't start putting areas like this into high-density housing. It's not appropriate. Our descendants will not want that. If San Jose can protect Coyote Valley, why can't we protect parts of Santa Clara County? I'm not willing to sacrifice this property. Give it to Rancho San Antonio. Make it part of that. But do not split it up. Don't break it up. Have it be like Rana Ranch, which is half of the original Presidio from 1845. I'm sorry if people don't like the history of California, but that's the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mayor, that concludes our speakers.
Thank you. I will close the public comment on consent calendar. So we have a motion and a second, and let's have a light vote.
The motion carries with more abstaining.
Okay. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Now we are moving to item number 10, public hearing. And I'd like to open the public hearing for subject number 10, consider a proposed mixed-use redevelopment project consisting of 34 residential units and approximately 7,482 square feet of commercial space, and as described in the agenda. So I'm hearing open the public comment, and then may I have staff report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Waite. So we have a presentation prepared by John Matier, Senior Planner, Lou Connolly, Assistant Director, and also accompanied by Ben Fu, the Community Development Director. We have a short presentation for the council, but we'll be here to answer any questions. John, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Wu, and good evening, honorable City Council members and the community, Cupertino community at large. Yes, so as described by the mayor, the subject matter of a new mixed-use development, existing shopping center. The project request includes the following applications, which is the adoption of a mitigated negative declaration, development permit, ASA, a use permit, as well as a vesting tentative map, as well as a tree removal permit. A little bit about the site. The Coach House site, as we refer to it in general, because that's the traditional name of that shopping center, or the anchor tenant of the shopping center, is located at the crossroads of really just where San Jose is to the east of the property, as well as City of Saratoga to the south. There's a whole mix of uses around this site, including single family to the west, as well as the south in Saratoga. North of the site is our office uses. We also have medical office, as well as a gas station to the south, and retail and gas station uses to the east. What we see is that within the general plan, it's within the South De Anza special area, and the conceptual plan for the area is called the South Saratoga Sunnyvale Road Conceptual Zoning Plan. A little bit about the project summary. There's 3 buildings on site. There's Building A, which is the mixed-use multifamily building to the front along South De Anza Boulevard. Then you have 2 townhome buildings, Building B to the north, adjacent to the office park to the north of it, as well as Building C, which is adjacent to Prospect Road to the south. And again, the project includes the 51 on-site tree replacements for 51 protected development trees, and a vesting tentative map to subdivide the 2 existing properties into 12 parcels. Planning Commission heard this project on May 23rd of this year, and Planning Commission, with a 5-0 recommendation on that date, was that City Council adopt the M&D and resolutions approving the project, as well as including the following modifications: remove condition 13 and amend condition 7 of the development permit. I do want to add that, unfortunately, in the last minute review of the development permit resolution, condition 13 snuck its way back in, although the condition 7 does reflect what the Plan Commission recommended. So if there is a motion to approve, we do recommend eliminating condition 13. And I do apologize for that error. As well as the Planning Commission had some improvements to the e-bike programming of the mitigated negative declaration. Site design, really quick. Currently, there's 4 curb cuts accessing the site, 2 along South De Anza and 2 along Prospect. As we see that the site does eliminate 2 of those curb cuts and allow just 1 on both streets. Early on, whatever we encourage through the South De Anza South Saratoga Sunnyvale Road conceptual plan, as well as the general plan, is interconnectivity amongst the sites. In our conversations with the Sheriff's Department, we came to the conclusion that having that connection would impair their operations. So instead of requiring them to have a connection, the staff has conditioned the project to just have an easement there for future connection if the same can be required for the property to the north. So just an easement, but no opening will be conditioned for the project at this time. Architectural design, again, we do have the applicant's architect here and the actual member of the development team, so they could probably delve deeper in the architectural design. But just to give you some conceptual drawings, this is the view of the mixed-use building from the perspective of South De Anza Boulevard, with the retail on the ground floor and the 2 multifamily floors above that, as well as we have the view of the townhomes adjacent to Prospect Road. And then we have a view looking northeast with the rear yards of the townhomes looking towards South De Anza Boulevard in the rear, in the background. Density bonus and waiver requests. The site's providing 5 below market rate units, 1 median income, 1 low income, and 3 very low income units on a density of 15 dwelling units an acre. The density bonus, when you do look at density bonus for the waivers and incentives and whatnot, and for the additional units, you are only allowed to choose from 1 income category. And so the developer chose to base their density bonus on the very low income units selected. So as they are 12% of the base density, which is really 25 units rather than 34, they get 35% bump in their density. So in a sense, 9 market rate units. And they are providing 20% of their BMR on site. So the applicant may request waivers or reduction according to the density bonus with the city in 1956 as well as the state's mandate. The applicant may request waivers or reduction development standards that will have the effect of physically precluding construction of a density bonus development. So just a quick illustration of what they're asking for. They're actually asking for 2 different waivers. In the front, they're asking for a front setback of 35 feet. The South Saratoga Centerville Road conceptual plan requires a 50-foot setback, at least an average 50-foot setback. So they're asking for a 15-foot reduction in that waiver. Further, they're asking for height waivers for 2 portions of the site, 38 feet on the for the top of the main building, as well as 52 feet for the top of the elevator tower for this development, when the allowed height of the general plan is 30 feet. And so that red line shows where 30 feet would be in comparison in relation to how the building sits up to it. So density bonus waiver request and justification. The height waiver, essentially in the justification that was attached to the staff report, for the height waiver, it was assumed that 12 units would be lost if the 30-foot height limit were enforced, including the entire 3rd floor. And for the front setback waiver, you would lose approximately 3 units per floor for an overall combined total of at least 6 units. Parking analysis. So the density bonus does allow statutory parking reductions for this site, or parking alternatives. That includes not just a reduction in parking, the amount of parking, but also the allowance of tandem parking spaces as well, which the applicant is requesting. So the biggest reduction, and really the only reduction, is that the parking ordinance for the city requires 2.8 parking spaces per townhome and 2 per apartment. What the applicants requesting is that they have only 2 per townhome rather than the 2.8. Tree removal and replacement. Replace the 51 removed trees with 51 trees of various box sizes. In response to a few members of the community that live to the west of the project site, the staff had conditioned the tree removal permit to retain as much as possible the mature Italian cypresses along the western property line for privacy protection to the rear yards of adjoining single-family residences. Both the city's arborist as well as the city's consultant arborist as well as the applicant's arborist know the difficulty for maintaining those Italian cypresses if there's with some of the grading plans, but in discussions with the developer, they believe there's a way to maintain those Italian cypresses to keep that privacy, that pretty much already mature privacy screening as well. So in the event that those Italian cypresses cannot be saved, they are required to follow the city's R1 privacy screening plans. Again, the vesting tentative map is the 11 parcels for the townhomes and 1 parcel for a mixed-use portion of the development. We did add, staff did add some development permit conditions since the Planning Commission hearing, 2 of them. Condition 40 is to require a report and that all asbestos containing materials will be removed from the site prior to demolition. So prior to issuance of demolition permits, we need reports from an asbestos expert that those will be that asbestos will be remediated from the site, as well as lead-based paints as well. And both of these will be required prior to demolition permits being issued. So again, the Housing Accountability, since this project is subject to the Housing Accountability Act, the council may disapprove project only if the project would have a specific adverse impact upon the public health or safety, unless the project is disapproved or approved upon the condition that the project be developed at a lower density and no feasible method of satisfactorily mitigate or avoid the adverse impact exists. An M&D was prepared for this project, and we do have two consulting groups to talk about the M&D if questions are asked. We do have Placeworks phoning in virtually, as well as Hexagon, who's our transportation consultant. The city can rely on what was found in the ISM&D is that the city can rely on the adopted environmental protection standards, which are recently adopted Chapter 17. But there were some mitigations measures that go above and beyond that. That has to do with transportation, particularly to reduce the VMT, and some of the methods are through fair share contribution for bike improvements, preparation of a school pool, bicycle, car share programs, and certain behavioral intervention programs. Certain noise levels that go beyond what was in Chapter 17 and Chapter 10 is that construction shall comply with the noise ordinance, Chapter 10, and best management practices for noise mitigation, ensure mechanical equipment selected to meet the city's noise ordinance. There's also further noise mitigation standards measures that are within the M&D as well. The ERC on October 20th of last year recommended the City Council adopt the MND 5.0, I believe, and our conclusion is that, staff's conclusion is that the City Council approve because the project and conditions of approval address concerns related to proposed development and all findings for approval of the proposed project consistent with Chapters 14.18, 18.28, 19.56, 19.156, 19.168 of the Cupertino Municipal Code could be made, as well as concerning development's height and front setback waivers. Evidence in the record demonstrated that the project met the standards for granting the waivers under the state density bonus law. Next steps, that City Council's decision is final, subject to any petition for reconsideration that's filed within 10 days of the decision. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank the staff for going over details with each one of the council members before the meeting. So thank you very much. So I'm open up for council questions. If there are no council member more.
All right. Thank you for the presentation. A quick question, since you did mention the Housing Accountability Act. Was there a 30-day, for lack of a better term, shot clock on that? And when did that start and finish? And I think it's when the application was deemed complete, but I was just wondering if you know that information.
That's correct. All housing developments have the 30-day shot clock, and that's when you're correct. So I believe it was, off the top of my head, I can get back to you on the 30-day shot clock, if that's possible.
The reason is that I'm not really sure that those the reasons why we could deny based on HAA. I think the shot clock's probably already come and gone. And I just want to double check that. And so in the future, because this did happen in the past where the shot clock came and went before the ERC for a couple of projects. And I'm just curious about the timeline here. Thank you.
Any other questions? Vice Mayor Mohan, please.
Quick question. Why was a waiver for the 35 feet requested? Isn't that well within the range? Is that out of the norm?
Sure. So what the South Saratoga Sunnyvale, I'm sorry, this has been called Saratoga Sunnyvale Road probably 30 years. But the South Saratoga Sunnyvale Road conceptual plan requires a 50-foot average setback. So they can go within, they can't have points of the setback be 35 feet as long as other points average that out to 50 feet. So what they're asking for is a full 35-foot setback across the whole frontage.
As opposed to the average.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Moore?
Just a quick question on the San Jose side. They have the new senior living. Would you happen to know what the setback is that they elected to have there?
I almost see like a 0 setback on that one. I know exactly which one you're talking about. The
Yeah.
Pancake House one?
Yes, and I think it is 0. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions from the council, I'd like to open up for public comment. Do we have any cards or raised hands?
Yes, Mayor, we have one card from Jennifer Griffin in Community Hall. Jennifer?
Okay. Please proceed. Thank you.
First of all, let's thank the staff for, John has done a wonderful job and the other staff members. Going from last year to this year, I did attend the ERC meeting, and we will say again, we have no more ERC meeting. This is something we need to solve. Last year, we had an ERC meeting, and it was well attended, and we asked questions. That doesn't mean, I think we should have the ERC meeting again. Some people think that we shouldn't, but I'm entitled to my own opinion. I think this project, it's not a housing element site. I did see in the Mercury yesterday that San Jose has put many of the properties on their side of South De Anza Boulevard into their housing element. That means that the Bank of America property directly across the street from this site potentially could go to 20 stories and have 1,000 housing units on it. If the neighbors are unhappy now because they have 3-story townhouses, they're going to be looking at 20 stories and I guess 0 lot line setback from South De Anza Boulevard. That's San Jose's problem, but it's also our problem. My husband grew up behind the wall, and he grew up in San Jose in 1976. The properties along South De Anza Boulevard were flipped between San Jose and Cupertino. Cupertino got the homes, and San Jose got the retail. And this is the drama we're living now. You also have a South De Anza Boulevard urban village that San Jose has, and there's a Prospect Road urban village. San Jose is saddled with 75,000 RENA housing units that they're having to build, and they seem to have dumped all of it on the edge of Cupertino. I don't think San Jose likes Cupertino particularly, but this is the living drama that we're happening now. If you don't like that 10-story senior housing unit with 0 lot line at 85, what the heck are we going to have all the way down San Jose's side of De Anza Boulevard? We're going to have 0 lot line all the way. We need to find out from San Jose what their plans are. So this project, I'm just going to make a comment on this townhouse project. Where is the new parkland? Hoover Park is very small. You're also going to have all the people who don't have places to park are going to be parking on Jamestown, and that's from my husband. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mayor, I'm sorry, we do have one hand raised on Zoom. Rhoda Fry. Welcome, Rhoda.
I was blown away by Jennifer's testimony as usual. Definitely echo her concerns about the ERC, of which I was an appointed member. I thought it was a very useful body, and it allows people to focus on the project and ferret out issues before it gets to Planning Commission, before it gets to council. So I would urge the restitution of the ERC. The second thing I'm very concerned about is those Italian trees that are on the edge of the property, and to do what we can to make sure that they will survive 10 years beyond the construction of the project. Sometimes a tree can get damaged through construction and will take quite some time for it to exhibit its demise. And I've sent in my written comment also on other items as well, which I hope you'll read tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhoda. And Mayor, that was our final speaker.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I'm going to close the public comment period and bring it back to council for discussion. Council members, if you have any discussions, can raise your light. If not, I'll start with the comment. I do believe this is a very well designed project and it fits into the neighborhood. So I really like it. And I do think that though we have little control over our neighbor San Jose City, but we do have our Cupertino developments that's really doing a good job. So I am very pleased with the project, and I want to thank staff again for giving us a real detailed walk through it and let us ask questions. So that is my very short comment. And Council Member Chow?
So, yeah, thank you for well thought out design and great staff report with all the information. And thank you for including the number of bedrooms in these units. And my question is regarding parking. In the staff report, it says that the required parking is like 107. But then in the presentation, it's mentioned that the required is 99 and 98 and 99 is provided. So I'm just a little confused on what's the number.
No, I apologize for any confusion that way. So the 107 is what would be required if the applicant were to go strictly by the municipal code 19120, I believe. The 98 that's required was if they went strictly with the density bonus. That's with the density bonus alternative standard. Essentially, what the table was trying to say was they're providing 99 instead of 98. So essentially, they're going providing one more parking space above what they would be required statutorily under the density bonus ordinance.
Oh,
yeah, I apologize for
okay.
the confusion. That probably should have been detailed better or more consistent, rather.
So they are meeting the density bonus requirement and provide one more.
Correct.
Yeah. And then I think my other question at the session was the number of bedrooms for below market rate housing. I think it's how many bedrooms are for these 5 units?
I believe the medium, the townhome that the BMR townhome has 3 bedrooms, and there's two BMR units with 3 bedrooms in the apartments, and another 2 with 2 bedrooms.
Yeah, I know I got that information, but I want to highlight that. Okay. And thank you for providing multiple bedroom BMR units. That's really needed by the community. And thank you for not taking exception or waiver on that requirement. You could have, but then you are really meeting our needs. Thank you.
Mayor Wei?
Yes.
May I interrupt? I had neglected to remind you to ask council if there were any ex parte disclosures at the onset of the public hearing. I think we could do that now.
Do we have any ex parte disclosures from the council? If not, okay. Thank you for the reminder, City Attorney Jensen. Okay, so any other comments from the council? Again, Councilmember Foon.
So I noticed in the staff report that there are park in lieu fees that are anticipated. Do we have any idea how much those might be?
I don't think the resolution details the exact fee, but
even a ballpark would be great.
I don't think we have. Is Chad still around, director? That's their condition. I can get back to you on that one. It's in the DP resolution.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Thank you.
I see Councilmember Chow. You have a couple of minutes.
Yeah. So another question was, sorry, it kind of is.
Want to wait until you find out? Like I can ask if other council members. Okay. Any other council members have input, questions, or comments? If not, I think we're waiting for your question.
Sorry, I think one public comment was the concern about the the depth of the root along the neighborhood. I see that there is a row of trees planted, so they were hoping that the roots are deep enough so that those trees would survive. So do we have any information about that?
Yeah, I mean, that is a concern. That was a concern brought up by the city's consultant arborist as well as the applicant's arborist as well. And so, we have had discussions with the developer's architect, and we believe there are ways to maintain it. I mean, the rear yards of the townhomes are range in depth of 15 to 20 feet, which we believe is enough to grade around them and provide enough space for those roots to not be damaged to the point where any of that damage to the root system would be irreversible. However, in the event that we did create the condition that in case they are damaged and need to be replaced, that they would be replaced in conformance with the city's privacy mitigation plan and whatnot. And I think, I think any further questions about it, I don't know if the developer's architect has any further thought on ways to mitigate any damage at this point or whatnot. Justin Dool, who's the applicant's architect.
Hello. Hi, good evening. I think I would just add to that only that the construction management plan, part of the conditions of approval has measures for tree protection in place, and that requires an arborist to be on site if there is work that's done in and around the root systems of the trees to do everything that we can to ensure that we protect those trees. Because it's important to us for privacy both ways, both in and out of the project.
Thank you. That's good to know. And another question is, I think a concern brought up by another developer was the archaeological resource requirement was very stringent for their project. They had to spend a lot extra dollars to fulfill that requirement. So I'm wondering what's the requirement for this project?
So consistent with state law, the tribes were notified early on around June. And in this case, they did not respond or show interest into adding any further mitigation measures than what's already within Chapter 17 of our municipal code.
Oh, so it's case by case. That's good to know. There is no additional cost for this. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Chow. And if there are no questions, I could close
I just wanted to
public
respond
comments.
to Councilmember Fruin's question
Sure.
earlier. The parkland dedication fee is $54,000 per unit. So you could do the math and get a rough sense of it.
So, City Attorney Jensen, should I close the public hearing and then go for a motion? Oh, okay, yes, Councilmember Moore, please.
And this is perhaps more a question for the applicant, but with regards to the mitigation measures for transportation, there's the school pool program, and I'm just wondering what experience they have with this. I think this is part of our new VMT requirements, and okay, so they would need to provide individualized transportation information for each resident, and it sounds like there's supposed to be someone dedicated towards doing this, and I'm going to assume that this is going to go on whenever there's a change in occupant, and the city's I just wonder how this is going to be monitored, because it's supposed to be to the satisfaction of the city. How would we know, and will we get some sort of feedback? Because this is a mitigation measure. We should be getting some feedback on this. So when are we going to hear about how this is working? And is there, by the way, because it mentions this online kiosk and webpage with the current school pool program, is that something that the school districts have? Who's making this website?
Great questions. You know, these VMT mitigation measures are brand new for all of us. So this is the first project in the city that's subject to these, and so we're all kind of treading new water here. And we do have our PlaceWorks online as well as Hexagon to dive further into details if I'm either going off track or not going detailed enough. The school districts wouldn't be maintaining these websites. It would essentially be the project coordinator that's identifying M&D. You know, with this project site, there would be an HOA. So assuming someone who's managing the HOA would be that transportation coordinator on site. And again, these are all things that we would require rather of the developer prior to any issuance of building permits. So it's gonna take time, and this is something that's new that we're all learning kind of all together with and whatnot, as well as Hexagon, and he's our consultant, as well as PlaceWorks too. So this is something that hopefully that we can set a good base for any future projects coming down the pike. In terms of how we're going to be reviewing these, the mitigation measures require within the first 6 months that we get a report, as well as after 12 months we get another report, and after that it's on an annual basis. Now, if we determine if the developer's consultant traffic studies done by their consultant and peer reviewed by us show that VMT has not been reduced, then the mitigation measures give flexibility for staff to try other programs that are part of VTA's list of mitigation measures to reduce VMT.
Through the mayor also, there was the electrical bicycle program, electric bike program, and I assume that these bicycles, you're going to have to monitor this as well. There's supposed to be a reservation system that the owners are going to need to provide, and the city's has to check in on this again through the satisfaction of the city of Cupertino. So are you going to be photographing these bicycles? Have some notation of what kind of bikes are they really between $1,500 and $2,500?
Through the mayor, if I may, Councilmember Moore, those are great questions. As you alluded to earlier, VMT is a new mitigation to the planning world. So all of these are going to be fall on the developer and the operator to provide a 6-month or a 1-year or annual compliance report to the staff to verify that they have demonstrated compliance with not only just the conditions of approval and mitigation measures. So if there's any lack of compliance verified and certified by their consultant and our consultant, they have more work to do. So that verification will not fall on staff. It will be truly burdened by the developer and the operator.
Okay, thank you. But it's to the satisfaction of the city of Cupertino. So you're going to have to make sure that you have this information. And can we? Well, I would say we can expect to see this moving ahead on future projects. This is just the start of this sort of thing that we're going to be seeing in these agreements. Is that right as well?
Correct.
Okay, so new territory and get used to it. All right, thank you.
So if there are any no more questions from council, I'm going to close the public hearing period and move for a motion and second. All right, so Councilmember Moore, you have another question?
No, I was going to move the recommended action with the one edit to, I believe, remove development agreement, item 13. Is that correct?
I closed it already? Okay.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Moore, I didn't hear your addition.
It was the recommended removal, I believe, of development agreement 13?
Condition 13 of development permit, correct.
All right, may I have a second, please?
Second.
Oh, I think it's seconded by Councilmember Foon first. Okay, so it's motion by Councilmember Moore, second by Councilmember Foon. If there are no more discussions, let's vote by light.
The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. So now do we need a recess? No? Council members? Yes? Okay, so let's take a 5-minute recess before we go to consent calendar number 7, 8, and 9. To consent calendar number 7. go back to it. Consent number 7 is considered to be determined list of agenda items requested by city council members. Do we have a staff report?
Mayor Way, we do not have a staff report. We do not have a staff presentation. We do have a staff report included in your packet. So I'll provide a very quick summary. Every quarter, I am obligated to provide a TBD list for council to provide further direction on when to place such discussion on our calendar and whether or not such conversation has taken place over the course of last quarter. So there is a total of 12 items that were added to the TBD list in the last quarter, and staff has provided a recommendation for each of the item except for one that's awaiting for council's further direction, and this will be a future agenda item proposed by Councilmember Moore and a second by Councilmember Chow to expand the noticing requirement from 300 feet to 500 feet. Every other item that has been added onto the list contains a staff recommendation. I'm here to provide any more to provide any answer to your questions.
Okay, thank you. So I'll open up for council questions first. Councilmember Chow, since you're the one who ported it, would you like to ask the questions?
Yeah, I think there is at least one item that there's 300 to 500 feet noticing requirement. Was it not added to the work program?
This was not.
It was not. Oh, okay. So I think that's awaiting council direction. And then another thing is the SB 403. The staff recommendation is to consider that at the end of the year, but I believe that is moving through the legislators and then the bill will be voted on in July. So by the end of the year, it's already signed by the governor or vetoed. I don't know what's going to happen. So just the timeline, we need to consider the timeline. Yeah.
Okay, so we're in the question sessions. Do we have more questions? Let's ask questions, then I'll open up public comment, then we can make discussions. Thank you.
Am I called on?
Yeah. Yes. Member Moore, please.
Okay, thank you. So looking at agenda packet PDF 296 or page 1 of the report, I was just wondering what the thinking was regarding items 2 and 3. So those are both Senate bills. And we did already look at, I believe, earlier this year a Senate bill and took a position, and we took a position on a constitutional amendment already. But what's the thinking on Senate Bill 423 and Senate Bill 403 to look at those later this year in December? So what was the thinking about that timeline?
Sure. Through the mayor, Councilmember Moore, that was a great question. So the thinking behind that is that we actually have a very packed agenda planned out through almost after Thanksgiving. There will be not enough room to accommodate 2 extra study sessions on these 2 legislations at this moment.
Pardon, through the mayor. So we schedule another meeting to make sure that we take care of those items so that we get them into this year's cycle and we don't miss it, because there's a potential that they both get signed into law at the end of September. And so what's the thinking to not review these items before they would potentially go to the governor?
So this is a staff recommendation. It's really council's discretion to move it up earlier if you desire to do so.
Pardon, through the mayor. So is it the staff recommendation to actually not take a position on this, because that's essentially what's happening when you choose to delay until after it would potentially go to the governor?
Through the mayor, the staff recommendation is to schedule this in December.
After it would potentially go to the governor. Okay, thank you.
If there are no more questions, with the questions right now, then we're going to open up public comment, and we can come back to the council for comments. So I'm looking for questions for staff.
This is a question. I
Sure.
think the agenda setting is determined not only by staff but by the mayor also, right? And then earlier in the year, I think we have a packed agenda in every meeting, but we did take position on some bills. So yeah, I think that's a question on what's the rationale for what we do put in the agenda when we have packed agenda, and what do we do not.
So I think the council has discretion to move it up, as City Manager Wu says. So we can always move it up if we decide. So if there's no more questions, I'd like to open up to public comment first. Do we have any cards here?
Yes, Mayor, I have one request to speak card in Community Hall, and I see 2 hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, please proceed. Thank you.
Jennifer Griffin, welcome.
Good evening, City Council. This is the danger of why the Legislative Review Committee was taken away. It wants to shield Cupertino from the danger of these bills. Well, I can tell you, we are entering some of the most undemocratic loss of control from these housing bills. S423, I have to be involved because it's trying to get rid of the Coastal Commission. My mother's house is within the Coastal Conservancy of Santa Cruz County. And I can tell you that right below her, Seacliff Beach sustained 50% of the entire budget of damage for the state parks in California. It was destroyed. So now we're going to get, and it's Senator Weiner again, SB 423. We're supposed to take away the Coastal Commission from Mendocino down to San Diego. You know people are dying to build on that land. They will die. The people who live on that land, there will be 200-story buildings that collapse into the ocean. This is the illogic of taking away the Legislative Review Committee. You are endangering the people of Cupertino and California. I spent 2 hours on 2 different Zooms today talking about SB 423. Yes, it is a potential lethal bill, and the governor will sign it in September. So we can be like little ostriches and hide our head in the sand and review it in December and be victims like we have been since September of 2017 when the first Senator Weiner housing bill got thrust upon us. And yes, I was quoted in an English newspaper about that, right from the lobby. Well, I'm sorry. The rubber hits the road here. We don't want to be shielded from dangerous housing bills. And they are, I'm sorry, it is hitting not just California. It's Washington, Oregon, Texas, Vermont, Virginia, Florida. And it won't stop. It will not stop. So we can just say we'll do SB 423. It also extends SB 35 in perpetuity, so we'll be fighting about Valco until 2040. So I don't know where Senator Weiner is getting off trying to think that he runs California, but he sure is endangering every resident of this state. And he wants to seek higher office. He wants to go to Washington, D.C. I sure hope that never happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And we will move to Zoom. We have 2 hands raised, Rhoda Fry and San R. Welcome, Rhoda.
Hi, good evening again, council members. As usual, Jennifer Griffin's making a lot of sense and has made a good case to resurrect the Legislative Review Committee. The other thing is, gee, I sure wish staff could just be straight up and just say, look, we don't want to take a position on these bills. That would be much more clear to the public. And I also have a question. It's unclear to me as to where things landed about taking another look at the sign ordinance, because as you know, we had quite a bit of difficulty with the public storage sign-in. and there had been discussion about looking at the ordinance and improving it. So I'd like to know where we're at on that, and I thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rhoda. Next we have San R. Welcome, San.
Evening, City Council and Mayor V. It was not long ago that Assemblymember Yvonne Lowe attended the City Council meeting and rightfully and justly made the case for an agenda item to be placed requesting a resolution in support of equal rights for marriage between partners of the same sex. That was immediately placed on the agenda, I believe the very next City Council meeting, by the same city manager who now says that SB 403 is not important enough when the population of Cupertino is 69.1% Asian, and a large number of that being Indian, including our Honorable Vice Mayor, who is on dais, who is going to be impacted by SB 403 herself. We have former mayors, Savita Vaidyanathan, also impacted by SB 403. So we have council members on dais who justly and rightfully supported Council of Assembly Member Yvonne Lowe's efforts, and it was agendized the very next session. How then, with the majority of an Indian community in the city of Cupertino, and perhaps the largest concentration as a percentage of the total population, can you, in good conscience, ignore the pleas of the South Asian community that is asking to remove the word caste and replace with ancestry? As we all know, the subcontinent of India has been subject to ghastly crimes over thousands of years and has been subject to persecution and repression over thousands of years. And to now call that community, which is one of the most peace-loving communities in the United States, as being discriminatory is quite ironical. And we expect of all the cities, Cupertino and other cities in Santa Clara County, to be supporting us. So I hope we can get the support of all of you, all 5 of you, to overrule the poor judgment of city manager in not respecting the request of a majority demographic in the city, to show your support by agendizing this item and placing a resolution in opposition of SB 403. Thank you.
Thank you, San. And Mayor, that was our final speaker.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I'm closing the public comment on this item and bringing back for council discussion. Do we have any council input, discussion? Do you have any lights? Vice Mayor Mohan, please.
My question was sort of procedural, because I'm not quite sure how this process works, and maybe the city attorney could help me out. For SB 403, what options do we have? We can place it on the agenda, or can we issue like a proclamation or some kind of a letter or communication to the state opposing SB 403? So my point is, what's the most expedient way of getting this done if placing it on the agenda and having a full-blown discussion is going to take time and will not fit the timelines that...
So just to clarify that in this meeting, in these individual items are not on the agenda. So, council cannot, really discuss or deliberate on the merits of any of these items. It's really the point is to express an opinion as whether they should move forward on a future agenda item. If council wishes to take a position on SB 403, that would have to be agendized at a council meeting and voted on by a majority of council.
Okay.
So this is council's opportunity to say either accept the city manager's recommendation and consider the item later this year, direct the city manager to bring that item forward more quickly, or take the item off the list.
Can I ask a question of the city manager then? What does it involve? What would happen if we placed it on the agenda before December, or before this is discussed, before this is decided at the state level?
Sure. So through the mayor, we could definitely see if any other agenda upcoming month could fit into an item like this. We will be working with the city attorney's office and also the lobbyists to track this bill and provide a summary and to provide a status of which organization is in opposition or in support of the bill. So that will take either a study session or an action by the council. I just want to remind council that we are dark in August. We do have 3 meetings planned out for July. And given that this legislation is moving rather quickly, you have limited council meetings to be able to accommodate this.
Right, so I wasn't thinking of a separate study session for this, but just as an item on the agenda. So that was my...
Thank you. Councilmember Chow?
Yeah. So a question. So the council with a majority today could motion to put this item on the next council meeting. That would be July 6th, right? So that's some action the council can take today. Legally, right?
So the agenda is set by the city manager and the mayor. So I don't think that council can direct the city manager to or the mayor to.
But the majority of the council should be able to direct the city manager.
The majority of the city manager could provide direction to bring the item forward, and I think that is within the scope of the agenda today.
And then specifically, we can say we want it agendized in the next council meeting. That's legal, within the legal realm of the majority of the council.
Typically, right? Referrals specify a specific amount of time and not the date of the meeting, and so I would recommend that be brought back within 30 days, for example, or 60 days or 90 days.
I think this item has a specific time constraint. And it's a state bill, and the city has a lobbyist on contract who can provide all the sufficient information. So that's...
Providing the information is not the issue, no.
Yeah, okay.
Through the mayor, I just want to caution the amount of time that is able to get this item on the July 6th agenda would be quite difficult. With the holiday in between.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask follow-up? So, like Santosh mentioned that the city put the agenda item requested by Assembly Member Evan Lowe the very next meeting after he requested it. There didn't seem to be significant time needed to prepare for that item. So are we treating people differently?
Through the mayor, I rather decline to answer that question.
So it feels that way, that some people are more important, some people are less important. I hope that we are treating all our residents who need our attention equally. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chow. So, Councilmember Moore?
Okay. Thank you. I do, if that was a feeling, a sentiment that you were expressing, Councilmember Chow, that certain council members are being treated differently, I would agree with that. Ordinarily, 2 council members are able to put an item on the agenda, and in this time, Councilmember Chow and I made requests which are in the staff report, and one was for SB 423, which impacts SB 35, which will impact our city directly, and the other one was SB 403, which appears to impact the majority of our residents, and we've heard a lot of requests to have SB 403 also addressed today. And what's happening in this particular staff recommendation is that staff recommended that our requests be removed and then brought it to the council, and then the requests that we made, which ordinarily would have put our agenda item requests in the queue, are here to be voted against, so that we've lost our rights, basically, to put items on the agenda, and that's troubling. I'm also troubled by the statement that this legislation is moving quickly. Well, if this legislation is moving quickly, we need to move quickly too, and that means that we don't wait until December. We treat these items with the same concern that we've seen for other items which managed to get on the agenda and not be blocked, I would hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore. So I'm going to ask a couple questions. The first is, our City Council Procedures Manual does specify that the proposed agenda items can be put on the discussion for, if 3 council members don't approve it, it will be off. Is that what our city council meeting procedures manual that's being passed?
Yeah, so the city manager's report is consistent with her obligations under the procedures manual, which states that she's required to provide a quarterly report to council, which may include a request to remove items from the list of future agenda items, and so that is consistent with what's contemplated by the procedures manual.
Thank you. So I'd like to clarify that I do not believe our city council, city manager is trying to, downplay other any council members' proposed agenda items. The second one is, it is when the proposed agenda items is approved, it is up to the city manager and the mayor to put it on which date. Because I remember our former mayor Paul had a long list of items, and that's because we couldn't get to it. So is that what consistent with our city code? Or
it's consistent.
customary?
It's consistent with our rules of procedure. I do think it's appropriate for council to give direction, to return within a specific time. You see that
Yes.
commonly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think that would be inconsistent with our rules of procedure. But the rules of procedure do contemplate that the mayor and city manager collaborate to develop the agenda, and do require city manager approval for any agenda item that requires preparation of a staff report.
Thank you. I actually like to commend city manager for bringing this to us, because I remember the previous years we didn't even know what items were on the to be determined list. So I think we are, bringing this to everyone to discuss. I like that. I want to thank city manager for doing that. And so my third question is, every one of us as a city council can write to the legislators representing ourselves. Like any bills for these 2 bills, we can write as mayor of Cupertino, Councilmember Froon as city council members. This doesn't stop us from support or oppose any proposed legislatures individually.
That's correct. You all may take positions in your individual capacity as elected officials, as opposed to the as would be differentiated from the position of the city of Cupertino, which would require a vote of council.
So I want to state one time that when the council brought in us to vote to write to CUSD to oppose their school closing, and I was the lone person that really did not want to do it. I want to appreciate Councilmember John Willie at that time. He thinks that things like this need to a 5-0. That's just, I'm expressing my appreciation for that. Also, I do believe that we have our own right to write as council members or mayor or vice mayor, but to pass a resolution like this, I appreciate former mayor, council member John Willie's sentiment that it needs to be a 5-0. So I am more inclined to let us write our own letters and express, or maybe 5 of us can write our own letters to oppose or approve certain resolutions, unless I can see a certain resolution to oppose or approve a pending bill can have a 5-0, I prefer that we write our own opposition or support letters to our legislators. That was just my comment, my personal preference. So I'm opening up for other comments too. Council member, I'm going to let Vice Mayor Mohan have a and then followed by Council Member Moore.
Mayor, about your suggestion about all of us writing individual letters, I think that's a good one. And I have already discussed this with the city attorney, and that is something that I've already done. However, there is a certain heft that goes with a council approving or not approving a Senate bill as opposed to an individual council member writing. So I just wanted to point that out. I myself have done it on the advice of the city attorney, but it hasn't been a council decision.
Okay. Council Member Moore?
Thank you. The council on the that agenda, non-agendized CUSD item, which the mayor just mentioned, it did have a public discussion on it, and a conclusion was drawn. I am concerned that the current council majority is actually afraid to have SB 403 and SB 423 discussed in public and provide a democratic forum with a public discussion and decision where the public is able to make their statements, their case on those particular items, and then a decision on whether or not we want to support if amended, or to oppose unless amended on each of those items. And I would like to imagine that we are braver than that, and we're able to hold these discussions. And if we don't have a consensus on one direction or not, then that is presented to the public so that they're aware of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore. Councilmember Chow, I think you have about two minutes.
Yeah, I think the decision today is whether or not to schedule an item on the agenda, and it seems we shouldn't be deciding on that based on, whether the agenda will get a 5-0 or not. I think if we decide on that, we are basically having a substantive discussion today on those items. That's not allowed today. So the decision should basically just be, is there a significant community interest? Should we have a public discussion on that? We may or may not, even if when I motion for something to be agendized, I may or may not support the bill. Maybe I would support with amendment. I don't know. But it warrants a public discussion. And another item that I would like some comment from the other council members is item number 7, which the recommendation is awaiting council direction. It's the expanding of noticing requirement from 300 feet to 500 feet. As we have experienced, when people did not get notified, they get surprised, and then we spend a lot of time trying to explain. So why not just expand the 300 to 500? Could we at least schedule this item for discussion? Thank you.
Yes, I'll see. Today is the session that we want to discuss whether we want to put that on a future agenda items or not. So we're not getting into the whys and the reasons. So we all know that it's on there. So what is the do we have any motions or Councilmember Froome, you haven't said anything. I didn't want to put you on the block, but hopefully you can put in some
I guess
input.
for the sake of moving this along, I'll move the staff recommendation with the request that we bring back the noticing requirement item, which is 7, if I'm not mistaken, also in December, so that we do not disrupt the rest of our timeline.
That's a motion. Do we have a second?
That is a motion.
Okay. I'll second that for discussion's purpose, okay, so that we can ask questions. So I do want to ask a question because I second that is this to 300 to 500, is that a big enough a item to be a work plan, or do we have the bandwidth to do research and?
Through the mayor, we for the initial conversation does not need to be a work program. We would need further direction from council in terms of what project and what other applicable requirement is to expand from 300 to 500 feet. This could be potentially a study session.
I just want to clarify that we're not seeking further direction from council at this time because it's not agendized.
All right, so we have a motion, and I seconded it. We're open for discussions. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you. So we've cut out what perhaps might be a record number of meetings this year. So I think that we have plenty of time where SB 403 and SB 423 can be brought to the council and allow the public to state what their opinions are and hear what their electeds have for opinions on those items. And I am deeply, deeply disappointed that we are receiving this lack of support for our democratic process. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilmember Joe?
Yeah, so following the Rosenberg's rule, I think I should at least attempt a motion. I believe there might be support. And so I'd like to make a substitute motion,
okay.
Yeah, for the staff recommendation. And thank you, staff, for bringing this really nice table and making recommendation on each item. It's really appreciated. I forgot to mention that. And I like this new process that we have a quarterly report on to be D-list. This is great. And then so the motion is the staff recommendation plus number 7, as mentioned by Councilmember Fruin, to bring it back in December. This, as I remember from city attorney, we need to set the same standard for every development, so we can pick and choose. So it should be simple. And then also that in the motion, I'd like to include that we bring the 2 bills back to the council sometime in July, so that there is time for the city residents to at least see a deliberation between the councils. And so these bills are important to our residents, and they will affect their life significantly. So I think they deserve us take time to discuss these bills. Thank you.
So we have a substitute motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, second, Moore.
And by Councilmember Moore, open up for discussion. Councilmember Moore?
Sure. Just a quick comment. We had a project recently where many residents had their view blocked and were not noticed. They were around 400 feet out, so they didn't receive the noticing, and they lost their beautiful view.
We're just going to vote for it, so this is
Thank
not a
you.
place to discuss anything. Thank you. So I'm going to put into my comment, when I said the 5-0, I didn't mean that only the 5-0 would come to council. I just said I appreciate what former city council member John Willie's, accommodating of my not approving that. And also I want to say that we're not stopping the public making any comments even if we don't put this on the agenda. I mean, public has emailed us and they can ask us. So my preference is that we express our own opposing or supporting measures for these 2. Both are pretty, I've read city attorney's analysis on especially on the which one is the, anyway, so my comment is I would like us to really do it ourselves. We're not stopping the public from making any comments or reproach us, or I actually met with a group of our Indian American residents and really had a good discussion of it and learned from their perspectives. So it's not about whether we're brave enough or not. I do believe that when we have bills that pending like this, I would like us to be able to be independent and do our own research and send our own letters of opposing or approving. So I would, that's what my personal feeling is. And I open up for other comments. Councilman?
Okay, just a quick question. So, Mayor Wei, were you alluding to some background information that I should look for in my emails from the city attorney regarding SB 403?
I think we do have pros and cons that.
I'm not aware of that. I don't think I've
maybe
sent
I did
that
my
to-
own
I
research.
don't believe I've sent that to any.
Okay,
council
I
member.
apologize. So maybe it's my own research. I did some research after I talked with constituents and met, so I did my own research of pros and cons on the bill.
Yeah, I ordinarily wouldn't provide advice on positions on a pending legislation unless there were some legal defect or some legal implication for the city that council should be aware of.
I will withdraw my comment. I did my own research, or I received information from the friends, of the Indian American community that I talk with. I got a paperwork about pros and cons. Withdraw my back. It's not from City Attorney Jensen. Council Member Froon?
Yeah, no, I was just going to mention, if you look up the bills on their way through the legislature, you will find analysis at each stage, at each vote, and it will indicate to you pros and cons. It will indicate to you reasons to support, reasons to oppose from advocates on both sides, and that's the case for both of these bills.
Okay, so Councilmember Chow, you make comments, then we can vote.
So, SB 324 will affect the city, right? So I'm just wondering, will the city attorney provide some analysis?
SB 324?
420, oh, sorry, 420.
423.
423, the one expanding SB 35. So you mentioned that you will provide analysis for bills like this?
I would provide a summary of the impacts if it's brought to council, yes. I wouldn't provide a recommendation one way or the other on the position that council should take.
But you would not provide if it's not brought to the council?
I guess, yeah, well, it depends on what it is, but yeah, if something that has not been provided, I would, whatever, if council directs the staff to bring legislation for council to take a position, we will try to provide as much information as possible to allow you to make an informed decision. If something is not coming before council, I would only provide that information if it were, if there were a direct impact on the city or that council should be aware of.
So, so if this SB 423 will have a direct impact on Cupertino, you will not bring it to the councel. You will let it pass and then bring it to.
I wouldn't generally brief council on policy issues, which is what SB 423 is. But I do think we're getting a bit far afield.
So, but even if it might affect us negatively.
So I think we're getting a bit far afield, but I'm happy to have this conversation with you offline.
Okay, thank you. So we have a substitute motion. Vice Mayor Mohan, you want to say something?
Yeah, let me see. So the only thing, just for my clarification, the only thing precluding this from going on an agenda before our summer break is the fact that there is a considerable amount of research and to be done and there's not a sufficient time. Is that, am I understanding this right?
Through the mayor, so if we're referring to SB 403 and SB 423, there are two heavy items that require a lot of research and coordination with the lobbyists and also city attorney's office. To be able to accommodate that in month of July will be difficult.
So, I think the research is certainly doable. I think it's more of this time on Tuesday evenings or Wednesday evening in this case is valuable real estate, and the city manager is concerned about taking that up with controversial issues that are largely not related to the pending business before the city.
Okay.
It's not a question of being able to do the research, just to be clear.
Okay.
More comments? If not, are we ready for a vote? Okay, we're going to vote on the substitute motion. Let's make it clear. The substitute motion is motion by Councilmember Chow and a second by Councilmember Moore. It is to, can you read it?
Yes, it is to, it's for the staff, it's to move the staff recommendation and modify, accept the modifications to the list as recommended below, and bring back item 7, expanding noticing requirement from 300 to 500 feet, and bring back item 2, Senate Bill SB 423, and item 3, Senate Bill SB 403, sometime in July.
Okay. See, within 30 days. Okay. So, all right. Yeah, go ahead. You have more questions?
Yeah, just is the motion to bring it back in July or? Okay, I thought the discussion was that it would be somewhat impossible.
Through the mayor, that would be council's discretion. If council's desire to bring it back in July, we'll make it happen.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Chow?
Just to clarify, I think city attorney said the research is not the issue. The concern was this might be controversial and some people are reluctant to discuss this issue on the council agenda. That's the main concern.
I think that's an incomplete representation of my statement. I think it's not that there's a reluctance to discuss a controversial issue. It's a concern about crowding out other pressing city business.
So if I interpret correctly, is the time, it's going to actually take a lot of time.
Well, just to give you a preview to council, so we are bringing the housing element back in July, which will take a substantial amount of staff work to be able to bring a meaningful study session back to council. We also have a number of big ticket items lined up for the month of July. But if council desires is to place these 2 items for the month of July, we'll make it happen.
Okay, so
I'm willing to start at 5 o'clock.
Okay,
today
so
we actually are done with the agendized item, like by 8:30 maybe. We are now discussing consent item today. We had plenty of time today.
Well, yes, today is today. So so we're voting to have both items come back in July, plus the 500, 300, 500 feet. Are we bringing 3 back in July or 2?
Just a 2, and the noticing requirement will go to December.
Okay, okay. So my comment is it's going to take a lot of time, and already, so we're ready to vote. Can we vote by light, please?
The substitute motion carries with Froen and Wei voting no.
All right, thank you. To council number 8, which is, let me go to it. Consider approval of the May 16 City Council minutes continuing from June 6, 2023. I do think we have the minutes. I don't think we have a staff report because we have the minutes. So I'm open for council questions because I think Councilmember Chow reported.
I pulled the item to honor some community members' request because they had some comment on the item. But if they are not commenting on that, I don't personally have a comment on the item.
Okay,
yes, so first I have a question with regards to when we have an item continued and individuals wrote in on that item and they had written communications and then the item has been continued on. Is it the city's procedure to truncate those written communications and not bring them forward, or is it the city's policy to continue those items on? Because I have the email that we were sent for the previous meeting on this item, and I'm not sure it actually was brought forward. So that's just a basic question. Does the city bring these written communications forward when an item is continued? It seems unfair if we weren't to do that.
I don't know if we have a clear definition in the policies and procedures, but normally we'll bring the staff report forward.
So I can answer that. The public comments for every meeting serve as a record for that specific meeting, so therefore they are not carried over to the next meeting. Any additional comments for that subsequent meeting will be included in the public record and published as part of the public record for that specific meeting.
Okay, thank you. So the public needs to know that they need to, if I'm understanding,
Yes.
they need to resend those written communications in. Okay, so I took the written communications and just forwarded it to all of us, so I'll let you know what was written. And I've got my 5 minutes. So this is from member of the public, Peggy Griffin. Pardon me. For the record, I'd like this email and the following text to be placed in written communications for item 2, approval of the May 16th, 2023 minutes to clarify exactly my concerns. I'd like to bring these violations listed below to your attention. In the May 16th, 2023 Cupertino Council agenda, it includes the March 2023 Monthly Treasurer's Report, agenda item 18, which is late and violates both Cupertino Municipal Code and the California state law. This is not the first time since December 2022. They are continually late. 1, violation of Municipal Code Section 2.24.030, monthly reports, in California Government Code Section 41004. The city's Municipal Code Section 2.24.030, monthly report states the treasurer shall make monthly reports which conform to the requirements of Government Code Section 41004. Said reports shall be delivered to the City Council, the City Manager, and made available for review by such other persons who may so request.
Point of order. Are these comments, are we on agenda item number 8, or did we skip
We're on
it?
agenda number 8, yes.
Are these items germane to the May 16th City Council minutes?
Yes, it's with regards to the meeting minutes indicating when the reports came forward.
Okay.
So the reports were March, they came forward in May. So the statement that you probably are looking for is the May 16th Council agenda item 17, receive the monthly treasurer's investment report for March and April. The March 2023 monthly treasurer's investment report is late because it's May 17th. So I just wanted to, I think that this member of the public has brought something important to our attention, especially in light of other things. And so you will have it in the written communications, and I hope you review it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're on the question part right now, so any more questions on it before I open up to public comment? If there are no more questions, I'd like to open up to public comment, please. Because we still need to, we didn't talk about this, so this is going to be a public comment. So I'm opening up the public comment right now. Do we have cards?
It appears we have a speaker card. We also have one hand, we have 3 hands raised on Zoom. I'll see if, I believe 2 of these speakers are artifacts of a previous item, but I will call on them. Ravi Kiran Singh, good evening. Are you commenting on this item, item 8?
I'm sorry, 1 second.
Okay, thank you. And Muni Madipatla, good evening. Are you commenting on item 8?
No, it's not on item 8.
Okay.
So I was going to thank the council members on item 7. So that's done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And so we have Rhoda Fry followed by San R. Welcome, Rhoda.
Hi, I have had issues with the minutes lately, and I've figured out that I can change my own behavior, and I will, and I have been, which is I write my own summary to how I think things should be reflected in the minutes. And to that end, I had made a presentation where I had agreed with a recommendation. However, the next meeting when that got split, the recommendation that I was referring to was a recommendation from a report, and it was talking about doing things in a proactive manner. But then what happened was that when the issue came to be voted on, suddenly there were punitive measures that came about, and that was
Mayor, point of order. We're talking about the meeting minutes. If there are specific changes to the minutes the member of the public is requesting, we can discuss it, but I don't believe this is germane to the agenda item.
It is the remaining agenda item because I had expressly requested a change. I had communication with the city manager about it.
Please request your change then.
I did, and it was denied.
This is public comment on the meeting minutes. You have the opportunity to request your change. If that's not what you're doing, this is not germane to the subject item, and we're going to end your public comment.
I will speak during public comment on this, and I will recommend to people that if they want their summary to be in a certain way, to write that in their comments. So it will be accurate.
And this is not germane to the agenda item. We're not talking about, this is about the meeting minutes for the May 16th City Council meeting. So if you have a change to the meeting minutes for the May 16th Council minutes, you have 1 more minute to recommend that, to request that.
I have, and I think that I'm just, y'all win. The administrative record might not be correct, and I also want to concur with what Councilmember Moore has discussed. It's really important that we get the administrative record correct, and I think that there's a way that moving forward, residents can work around that, and that is by providing their own summaries and being a little more specific.
I do think city manager means that city attorney means this is not on the agenda for discussion. So you have a chance to maybe during oral communications and to express that. So he would think that we actually need to limit to what would you like the minutes to be changed.
Right. Well, I thank you, and I understand that integrity and accountability is very important to this council. Good night.
Thank you.
And our next speaker is San R. Welcome, San.
Thank you, City Council. Firstly, I want to thank Vice Mayor Sheila Mohan for standing on the right side of the previous issue. And I will move on to the next item before I'm corrected here. I would like to call to your attention the minutes reference my public comment from the last city meeting on the method of the city surveys. And during that item, the city manager took the item offline, saying she will address it with the concerned resident. And I have not seen anything come out of that. And I wish to call out that that minute should be modified to reference the city manager offered to take it offline with the resident, and that has not happened. The reason I bring this back up is because surveys drive an inordinate amount of discussion and cost for everyone involved. And it's really important to put all issues on the table on a survey and make sure the survey methodologies are fair and balanced and that public input is gathered across a wide spectrum of society.
I believe that we understand the change that you'd like to make to the minutes. Thank you for staying on subject.
And I'd like to make sure that we get a follow-up with the resident as was promised in the last City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, San. Mayor, that concludes the speakers on Zoom. We have one person in Community Hall, Jennifer Griffin. Welcome, Jennifer.
Good evening, City Council. I'm just going to start out that I feel concerned that there were times that I had questions about consent calendar items, and they were never heard that night, and then they showed up again maybe later. I was either not here or not prepared, so it's led to great confusion. I know someone who wrote the note earlier is not here tonight because they're on vacation. So, you can cut me off, Mr. Attorney. There's been 23 years that I have had in these council chambers.
Ms. Griffin, I'm going
Yeah,
to
that's
treat,
fine.
I'm going
No,
to
no,
treat
I
you the same way
understand.
that
I
I
have
treat
great
everybody
respect,
else.
but I have grave problems with due process in this consent because people are confused and lost. Thank you.
That is our final speaker, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Thanks for the public comments. We do have a city council meeting procedures manual that we followed. If we didn't finish it, we put it to the next meeting. So I am sorry that it caused some confusion. So I'm closing the public comment and bringing back to the council. So the decision is to approve the May 16 City Council minutes. That's back to council discussion. Councilmember Chow?
Yeah. So it is yeah. So I finally found Rhoda's email sent to the council when this was first on the consent. It was June 6th. This is her email sent to the council that she requests amend the minute with the following statement. Rhoda Fry opposed some report findings on, I can read the part. Wait, let me reassure. Something with another sneak peek too. So sorry. Oh, I need to move this to the left, otherwise I can't read my own screen. Okay, here. So this was the email from her. Please amend the following statement. Rhoda Fry opposed some report findings and supported most recommendations and working together. So that's what she would like the minute to need to be, I think, amended to. And I remember Peggy Griffin at the time also submitted recommended amendment to the minutes, but I'll need to find them. Therefore, when we continue an item, it would be nice if these comments could be carried forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chow. I do remember the emails, and I did go back and read them. My comment is I do believe our city clerk does very good minutes, and I would not want to start to have, correcting minutes. I believe, Kirsten, you listen to tapes and do your minutes, so I am not in favor of changing the minutes and or have residents or council members start to write our own minutes to tell Kirsten what to say. So that's just my comment, and so we do have this item, and so do we want to approve this May 16 city minutes or not? I think that's the subject to discuss.
For the sake of discussion and moving this along, I'll move that we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and second. Now
Okay.
we're open for discussion.
So I just want to put this into the meeting record since this is being discussed today. Mayor, could I share? I found the email from Peggy, just so that we have that.
This discussion you can share.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the other email from Peggy Griffin regarding the May 6th meeting minutes. She feels the statement in the minute does not reflect her specific concern. I think she sent the email for the last council meeting, and request was to rephrase the comment as such that, sorry. When it's on the right, I can see because it's okay here. Please rephrase it to read: Peggy Griffin was concerned about the continued non-compliance of accounts payable and treasurer's report to both state and municipal code regarding their timely delivery to council. So these were sent into the council for the June 6th meeting when we were first considering May 17th meeting minutes. Thank you.
Councilmember Moore?
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Chow, and I agree with the edit request from Ms. Griffin, especially in light of the email that I was reading from her regarding the reporting as well. So I am in agreement with Ms. Griffin's request for the edits on that.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second.
I'd make a substitute motion that we approve the meeting minutes with the alteration that Ms. Griffin's comments are reflected from her email, which Councilmember Chow has just presented.
We have a substitute motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's being moved and seconded. Any further discussions? If not, we will vote on the substitute motion. Are we missing some votes?
Yes, Mayor and Councilmember Chow.
Oh, did I not vote? Oh, sorry.
The substitute motion fails with Chow and Moore voting yes.
So we have a original motion made by Councilmember Froon, second by Vice Mayor Mohan. Any further discussions? So I just want to make, again, my comment is I do believe that we are not going to let, it's not a good practice for residents and council members to start correct minutes. My recommendation is perhaps when we make public comments or council members, we can, public can write down their public comments and turn it into us so that we have sort of a written thing to go with it. So that is my, not that I don't trust Peggy Griffin and Rhoda Fai's true, you know, what they say. So I just think that we should really not start to go back and forth on this. And if I listen correctly, I think Rhoda Fai does say that she was okay with it. Correct me if that's not right. Okay, so but anyway, that is my comment. Councilmember Froon, you have a comment?
Yeah, I really don't want to get in the way of the ministerial judgment of the city clerk. I think that we're starting to enter very dangerous territory if we're making a lot of ad hoc changes. If we are going to make a change, it should be reserved for something that is extraordinary. This is not something extraordinary. To your point with respect to Mrs. Fry's comments, she put up a slide at the time that literally said, "I mostly agree with the recommendations." So I don't know how the comment here in the minutes is not reflective of the accuracy of that statement.
Okay, so if there are no more comments, let's vote by light, please.
The main motion carries with Chow and Moore voting no.
Okay, we're moving to number 9. Receive the fiscal year 2021-2022 annual comprehensive financial report and related supplemental reports. This is also continued from June 6th meeting. So do we have a staff report or we?
We do not have a staff presentation. We do have the report that was included as an informational item for council for consideration in May, and it was requested by council to put on a consent calendar. Therefore, we carry the same report to the June 6th council meeting, and there we are. So we're here, and with the administrative services director Alfaro and our financing manager here to answer any questions.
Very nice to meet you. Okay, so we're now in the questions. So council members, if you have questions, this is the time to ask questions. And then I'll open up a couple of comments, and then we can bring back for discussions. Hey, Councilmember Chow.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for being here. So this is an annual report that the city prepare every year, right? That at the end of the fiscal year.
Correct. It's an annual report.
So I think I pulled this item because there were some comments from the residents that some description of certain things might not be accurate. It may not reflect what we are today. I'm guessing those descriptions probably are carried forward from previous years. So I wonder what's the process used to update this kind of report every year.
So we go through an extensive process in terms of the financials. We have our external auditors that work on the financials along with staff. We also make sure the report is reviewed by community development staff, economic development staff for any of the businesses and things that are named. I also want to point out that this document can be a bit confusing because it's a look back document. When we're looking back in time, and also when we're talking about certain things that have happened, sometimes reporting is behind as well. So when we're reporting on something, the public may have seen that something has changed or closed, and that's true, but those dollars or that reporting is still coming in to that year that we're looking at. And so it can be a little confusing, but when we look at it in terms of when did we receive the information and was it valid for that year that we're looking at specifically.
So for example, this report is a end of the year report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022, which
That's
is already a year ago. And then so the description likely reflect the status there at that time. And then the numbers is based on other department provide you all the information to include in that report.
Correct. Other departments, and then even our consultants that we use for like sales tax and property tax, their information as well.
Okay, so you believe the numbers included, like the number of retail, the stores, they were open at the time when the report was prepared?
They were either open or they were still reporting dollars during that period.
So if they were closed, but then they might still reporting for the next year, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I will open it up to a public comment. Do we have any cards?
I see
raise hands?
No speaker cards submitted in Community Hall, and sorry, I've lost my Zoom.
Any hands raised?
Sorry, I have to get back into Zoom. For some reason, it crashed on me.
Kirsten, there is a public comment raising her hand, Rhoda Fry. So I have my Zoom up.
Oh, okay, thank you. Can the video team unmute Rhoda, please?
Thank you, video team. So I have sent you written comments. The report covers the period that starts July 1, 2021. And it gives a narrative of what we have in various malls and the vibrant economy. These sections are not talking about the sales taxes. It's talking about what we have in our community. And it lists stores that closed in 2020. So it's just so out of date. And in another narrative section, it talks about Seagate and Apple, and Seagate being, you know, important in our community. Seagate moved out in 2020. So you can read my report. I think it's really important to have these reports to be correct. It's like an annual report of a company. When I read it, it caused me to lose credibility in the report. I am grateful to staff for having repaired another part of the report that I found to be in error, containing mistakes that were over 50 years old, from what I could tell. And that I also want to say that my comments regarding the minutes were on point, as you can see. I fully agree with Councilmember Fruin. I did say in my slides that I had agreed with the recommendation. Unfortunately, when taken in context, by the next meeting, a different recommendation had come about, which made my comments incorrect when taken in that new context.
I believe we're speaking on item 9
yes,
now,
please.
Rhoda.
So
Yes.
at the end of the day, it's important to be transparent. Well, you know, and at the end of the, and also as somebody saying, putting words in my mouth, I want to make sure that we're really all straight up and on, you know, on board with that. So, you know, I figured out how to move forward, and I really think it's important that the documents that we have are correct. People are making financial decisions on these. Should they buy bonds for Cupertino? Is Cupertino worthy of you know, producing more bonds that people want to invest in? These are important documents, and I think they need to be correct. Thank you.
Mayor, that was our final speaker.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I want to thank public comment from Rhoda Fry. And so we'll bring back to council for discussion before we take a motion and second and vote on it.
Just to clarify, Mayor,
Yes.
no action is required on this item.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
But of course, council is welcome to discuss it further.
Okay, I'll open up for discussion then. So everybody have 5 minutes, and then we can move forward. Councilmember Chow?
Yeah, I'll just, so here is the email from Rhoda. Maybe the staff can just help relieve the confusion. So she thinks that these businesses that she mentioned were already closed in 2020, but likely they are still reporting, I don't know. And then the document lists Seagate as a top employer, but maybe it's just it's a different time. So if you can help us, explain, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Right. Again, as we're looking at the document, talking about what went into playing the financials for the city of these businesses, we're still reporting. We would leave them in the report. If that a certain point, like for next year, where they haven't been reporting, some of these actually we're still reporting into the July quarter of the current fiscal year. We were still getting, and so we would still include that as part of in the financials. That's something that's bringing dollars into the city. In terms of the Seagate item, we use that's not. Employment information is not readily available to us. We use a third-party reporting, and based on that third-party reporting, they were still reporting employees in the city at that time. So we have to go off the data that's provided to us that we can see when we're doing this report. We did get a lot of these comments when we took it to audit committee, so we did make an effort to go in and double check and make sure, and we did make some changes where we found that we did need to make corrections to the report before bringing it to the city council.
So you already make corrections that you found were valid, but then the rest of the numbers were based on the information that's available through the treasurer, and any information that's not available to you, you cannot report them based on some understanding from a third party, right?
That's correct. So we have to take the information and the sources that we have and be able to report off of those.
Thank you for the explanation. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councilmember Moore?
Yes. So if I'm looking for the management letter in previous years, where do I locate that?
It should be in the annual comprehensive financial reports on the city's website. So if you go to cupertino.org, I think /finance, and you scroll down, you should be able to see all the previous ACFRs, and the management letter should be included at the front part of that document.
Okay, so I'm seeing it around page 4 pretty consistently within there. So there were some deficiencies in this one, and I was just wondering if you had some comments on this, like the control deficiency. There were 3 items mentioned in the first one. The city's New World system does not provide the ability to generate security logs for city employees to review transaction activity. If you wanted to comment on the first one, and the potential effect was that they said if uncorrected, there's a risk that unauthorized transactions or user profiles could be added to the city's IT environment that would not be timely detected and remediated. So they make a recommendation. What happens with these recommendations? Do you have to change some procedure, or?
So included in the management letter is also a management response that says whether we agree or disagree on what we intend to do. For some of those items, there's mitigating controls we can put in place. So, for example, the first one that you listed. And so we look to find solutions for how we can either correct the problem completely or put in some mitigating controls. So, for example, we can't have New World change and make the reporting that doesn't exist for them. So we put in some additional reviews to be able to make sure we're able to address that deficiency.
Okay, so where do I find then this city's response part? So I'm looking at the agenda item, attachment B. I have the management letter, but I don't know where to find the response to that. And thank you for putting item H, the responses to the ACFR questions, because those are some of the questions from members of the public that were answered in there. That helps. And also there was a little bit of concern about this audit, the CDTFA audit, and whether or not that's going to have an impact on our city's rating. If you want to speak to that, I'd appreciate that as well.
So if you go to attachment, it's not showing me the attachment, sorry, attachment B, it has the management letter deficiencies. And so in there, you're going to look, it's going to give you a description of it, the potential effect, and then under recommendation is where you'd see the city's response.
Okay, all I'm seeing are the recommendations from CROW. So on page 2 of that, the recommendation, we're aware that the city is considering a potential new investment in an ERP that could contain improvements in several areas, including the generation of certain security logs that could strengthen the city's IT control environment. In the meantime, we recommend that the city consider its current staffing structure and assignment of review duties, et cetera. But that's not saying that the city is doing that. That's I was expecting something that was more like we are looking at our staffing, we are looking at these controls. In some ways, it's in line with some of the Moss Adams recommendations, is finding out what happened afterwards after you got the recommendation. It's just out of curiosity. What happens with these management letters so that we know that, or at least have some assurance that when we do get some kind of deficiency notice that it's being worked on. That's all. I can take a memo after, so we don't hold up the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore. Do we have any more council discussions? If not, this is not an action item. It's for information only. And then if Councilmember Moore is asking for some information, I think Christina, you'll be able to provide that to Councilmember Moore, right?
Yes, we certainly can add that in. Just to inform you that finance is constantly looking and reassessing its processes and identifying those deficiencies even before the auditors come out. So as we're moving along the year and staff identifies a potential issue, they'll raise it to management, and we'll go ahead and devise a new process to address that and shore up that weakness.
Thank you. So I do have a question on the process. I consider these are administrative process that our staff would work on when this comes on, and more. Well, I think that's, to me, it's more of a implementation instead of a council direction. Will you sort of agree with that's what happening?
Yeah, it's best practice that when auditors and staff work together, right? So the auditors will identify key issues and they'll bring it to staff's attention, and if it's egregious, they'll bring it to management's. But as we're working together through the engagement, if they find a deficiency or something minor, they'll bring it to staff, and we'll make those fine tweaks in our processes. And so ultimately, we'll refine our process. And from auditor to auditor, it will always change. Mm-hmm. So one audit firm's opinion on a certain situation may be different than the next. So that was part of the reason why, in its earlier, we went with a different auditor for this next year. So hopefully we'll have a different opinion, and we'll, again, refine our processes, and we won't have these types of issues going forward.
Okay, so it looks like this is an operation that's within the finance department, administrative department. When you have auditing, you work with the auditor and work with the what needs to be done. And I was school board for 11 years, so we do know that we need to change auditor every, I think, 5 years. Okay, so I think that's a good practice. And we did just have our finance department, finance committee, audit committee that selected. I remember last time we had selected a new. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Any more questions from council? If not, Councilmember Moore.
Quick question: auditor change-up policy. Do we have one? Can staff please provide any information on that? Because I do know of an agency which has retained same auditor for many, many years, way more than 5. And
they do need to change people. That's that I know. You can have the same agency. That's why I understand it. Maybe city manager or city attorney can be changed. I understand it if you can have the same audit company, but you need to change the auditor within the company.
The individual.
So the way it works is you can maintain the same firm for many years. State municipal code says you have to change the audit partner or engagement partner every 6 years. And that's the individual who's essentially responsible for overseeing each engagement, and they're the ones that sign at the bottom of the report, saying that it's free of any material weakness, misinformation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If there is no more questions, I'm going to move on to the next on the agenda is our council report and comments. I believe we have submitted our council reports. And so I am going to move to city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Wei. So before we end the meeting tonight, I do have a video, but before I play the video, just have a question for council members that we're planning on a joint workshop with City of Montecito late August, where we're looking at the end of August towards September 1st. So just before I proceed, want to get confirmation on your availability, a head nod for confirming or a head shake for not coming. So before I could finalize the detail, if I can start with Mayor Wei.
I am available on all 3 dates.
Thank you.
And but I prefer earlier.
Okay. Vice Mayor Mohan?
I'm doing a head nod.
Thank you. The dates are August 30th, August 31st, and September 1st.
So I prefer start from the 30th to 31st to because I'm going to New York for a wedding September 2nd.
Noted. Councilmember Chow?
But I could take a red eye if it has to. No, August 31st is a Thursday.
It's it could be a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I'm just polling your availability. I understand that we are dark in August, so just trying to see if you will be taking a vacation or other plans scheduled.
And that will be during the day
We could talk about the time of the day, but right now I just need to know if you will be in the country for those 3 days, and you will confirm to attend that meeting. And can I get you to confirm that you will attend the workshop?
Depending on the, it will be.
We don't hear, Councilmember Chow, your microphone is off.
It will be in the evening or?
We're looking at late afternoon.
Late afternoon. Yeah, Wednesday or Friday will be better if it's late afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment? I wasn't aware of the date, City Manager, when you said the 30th. I'm most likely going to be here, but I am traveling out of the country, and strange things happen. If I don't arrive on the 29th, then there may be a problem. I'm scheduled to come back on the 29th.
I understand that. Okay, perfectly fine. Councilmember Fruin? Okay, Councilmember Moore, is Councilmember Fruin still looking at his other computer?
Okay, quick question. Are you asking if we are available for 3 days or just one of those 3 days?
One of those 3 days.
Okay, any of those will work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then I will revise it if Councilmember Mohan just came back on the 29th in case the flight delay. I'm okay with later, the September 1st.
So perhaps we're looking at August 31st.
Oh, yes, or September 1st, I'm fine too. I can take a red eye to New York.
And I can get your confirmation off.
But I thought Councilmember Chow does not like the 31st, which is a Thursday. I think you prefer Wednesday or Friday, right?
Yeah, because Tuesday, Thursday are the days I usually will in the office, so harder to leave earlier.
Let's make Friday our top priority then.
So the reason I'm asking for multiple days is that this is on our end. We would have to collaborate with City of Montecito, and that is the Friday before a long weekend. Councilmember Fruin?
But I can try and make it, yeah.
I can make the 30th or 31st work. I'm not quite sure that I want to spend my birthday on.
Noted. So
I want to spend birthday with us.
So the consensus seems to fall on August 31st. Thank you. And with that, a video, if you can play my video. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Wood. Always ends the meeting on a high note. So we have information items that we reviewed, and we are going to adjourn the meeting at 9:47.